Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Christina and today is a spooky story video. So the spooky story series is something that I did back in October for a spooky season where I would do my makeup and I would tell you a spooky ghost story or an exorcism story or just a spooky story in general while I do my makeup. I know a lot of you guys don't really enjoy this series, which if you don't enjoy the series, you're probably not watching this right here, but I know a lot of you guys did enjoy this, so I'm going to be doing this as like a limited kind of thing that I do every now and again. A lot of you guys said I should do it on the 13th of every month, so we are going to try that and see how it goes. This is basically a bonus video as well because I think the 13th is a Saturday this month, so bonus videos, yay. But I think I've rambled enough. We're gonna get into today's video, which I picked this video because, as you guys know, I recently moved to Florida about 5 months ago now. I like learning spooky things about the state that I'm living in because you guys know I'm a military spouse. We move quite frequently and it's just kind of fun to get to experience different states. So I picked this story because it is based out of Florida and it's pretty good. There's some romance, some affairs, some disappearing, and some ghosts. So if that sounds good, let's just get into this. Spooky time. And as always, if you guys want to know what I use on my face today in this video, it will all be down in the description for you, as always. Also, if you want to follow me on any of my other social medias, or if you want to check out some of my other YouTube channels and my Twitch channel, also down in the description for you. I do already have my eyebrows on today, obviously. I wish my eyebrows looked like this on their own, but they do not. So today's story is based out of St. Augustine, Florida. St. Augustine is given credit for being the oldest settled establishment in the United States, which means it consistently started out as St. Augustine at the beginning of the colonies and has stayed St. Augustine. It hasn't changed in any way. It's been a consistent settlement. When I first read that, I was like, I feel like so many places try to take credit for being the oldest location in America. But it does seem like this one actually probably has some merit. It's just stayed consistently the same and people have basically lived there this whole time. So St. Augustine is one of the oldest places in America. It was one of the first colonies, and people like to say that that's why it's extra spooky. It's got some spice, you know? It's got some history spice. So in case you don't know anything about Florida and how large the state actually is, and locations within Florida, I personally live near Miami, which is near the bottom of the state. St. Augustine is up near the top part of the state, about an hour or so away from Disney World. So not too far away from Haunted Mansion is some actual haunted mansions. So like I said, St. Augustine is one of the oldest locations in the United States. It's also obviously in Florida, like I've said, and it's coastal, which just really means that back in the day, pirates actually showed up, which sometimes I forget that pirates are real. Like Pirates of the Caribbean, like the movie, like sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, pirates were like an actual thing that people had to be worried about. Like I know pirates still technically exist now, but like it's not anything that really affects me in my day-to-day life, so I tend to forget that they're like actual things that are like threats. Back in the day, pirates were definitely a huge deal. So St. Augustine had its own issues with pirates, with smugglers, with mobsters. All kinds of issues happened in this location. For having been one of the oldest settlements in the United States, it makes sense that like stuff would have gone awry at some point in the 400 plus years that it's been in existence. When I first started doing research for this video, I just considered doing the entirety of St. Augustine, but the more I looked in, we running low. But the more I looked into the location, the more I realized that it would just be way too long of a video to do this. There are multiple locations in St. Augustine that everyone considers the most haunted. You can find all kinds of websites that are like the top 10 most haunted places in St. Augustine, one of the most haunted locations in the United States. Stuff like that. It's a lot of that. So I narrowed down my search to one that I thought was the most interesting. And so today we're going to be talking about a fort within St. Augustine, which is one of the oldest buildings there as well. It was established pretty early on, but it is called Castillo De San Marcos. Castillo De San Marcos. I never took Spanish. Probably butchered that. Really need to learn Spanish and now that I live near Miami. It would be very useful. Castillo De San Marcos was built in the late 1600s, around 1672. is where they think or believe is the appropriate date that it was built. If you know American history, then you know first settlers arrived in 1604, and then sadly after that people started arriving. So 1672 is really, really early in American history. There would have still been natives living on the land, so I'm sure they had to deal with that. There would have been, again, pirates coming. I'm sure they still dealt with the Spaniards a lot as well in this area. I'm sure they were dealing with all kinds of stuff in this area. One of the major reasons why this fort was built, I mean, forts were built for protection for people from invasions, or from foreign invasions just generally. I don't like saying foreign because technically we were the foreigners on this land originally, because the natives are the natives. So I hesitated. Everything I read was like to protect us from foreign invaders. I'm like, we're the foreign invaders. We weren't even a country yet, so we were the invaders. So anyways, this was built to protect us from invaders. I did find that the fort changed name and also ownership at some point. At one point it was owned by the British to protect from the Spaniards, and then the Spaniards took it over to protect from the British. And it switched rule a lot, but it was generally always under a military procession of some sort. So it was basically always used as like a military fort. And it was under military possession until 1933. So this thing operated for a very, very long time. That's like centuries. That's insane. From 1672 until 1933, that is such a long time for something to exist. They just don't build buildings like they used to, you know? During its years of operation, it was tumultuous at best. Battles happened there, death obviously happened there, just all kinds of things happened within those walls, around those walls. So this is why a lot of people think that it's haunted, that it just had a lot of catalysts for activity within it. Basically anywhere the, you know, tons of battles happened is probably a pretty good place to haunt if you want. So one of the first events within the fort that a lot of people give credit for starting the haunts is in 1702. Spain owned this fort at this time. They were currently at war with Great Britain, who we all know was also settling in the United States at this point. And again, this is why the fort existed. 1702, they were at war together, and the British decided to launch a huge attack on this fort. For 50 days, the British were attacking the fort. Hello? It was a quick pause for Starbucks. My husband brought me my Starbucks drink, which is, my drink is a matcha green tea latte with soy milk. Hot. Grande. Delicious. So like I said, in 1702, Great Britain attacked the fort, which had Spain in it, Spaniards in it. And then for 50 days, the British attacked the fort mercilessly. Attacked it viciously. There we go. They besieged the fort. They captured hundreds of Native Americans as slaves, and then they burned all of the hospitals, the monasteries, anything that would have been useful for, you know, civilization at that time, and burned it all to the ground. The only thing that was still standing was the fort, Castillo De San Marcos. I saw that like in some places it was like dozens of men died. It was probably more than dozens. It was probably close to hundreds of people probably died during this, if we want to count, you know, casualties and Native Americans in there. But there wasn't an accurate number, obviously. Like, everything was burned down, so there wasn't an accurate number. But that was one of the events that people think started a bunch of the haunting, because like a ton of people were injured and hurt and died in that event. So they were like, oh, that's what, you know, that's where a lot of these ghosts are coming from. But my personal favorite story, like I said at the beginning of the video, there would be a story about an affair. This story is my favorite because it just sounds like a telenovela. So this is a little bit of time later. In 1784, the fortress was under a Spanish colonel named Garcia Marti. He was an officer in the Spanish army at the time, and he was basically the commander over this entire fort. Colonel Marti was married to a woman named Dolores, which immediately gives me Westworld vibes, but he was married to a woman named Dolores. At this time, the forts, your family would live there as well, so she lived in the fort with everyone. And Dolores was known for wearing a very, very distinct perfume. It was her signature scent, if you will. But she wore this very distinct perfume. She was apparently very, very liberal with the amount of perfume she wore. So she's one of those people that when you get on an elevator with them, their perfume fills the entire space and it's like no one else exists. And they basically fumigate you out of there. That's how Dolores was. She wore her perfume heavily. So everyone basically knew when Dolores was in a room or around a room or had been in a room because they could smell her. So after some time of being in the fort, Colonel Marty started to become suspicious of his wife. He worked long hours. She was often alone to socialize with the other men within the fort. And she is also credited for not only wearing a lot of perfume, but for being very young and very beautiful. Since he was working such long hours, he began to grow just kind of suspicious of his wife. I couldn't really find out why he was becoming suspicious, but maybe it was intuition. Maybe he had some intuition about his wife, being out spending time with people. And he began kind of keeping closer tabs on his men and on his wife to kind of see like what was going on, you know, when he wasn't looking. Eventually his suspicions are confirmed and his subordinate, or his assistant rather, like the person right under him in rank, Manuel Alba or Abella, probably completely wrong. Captain Manuel Abuela? No, that's grandma, isn't it? I'll put his name up on the screen. But one day his captain came in and smelled so familiar. You know how they say like memory is tied to scent a lot of the times and that those are usually stronger memories? Well, that's what happened. His captain came in and he was like, that smells, what is it? Like my wife. His captain came into work smelling like his wife's perfume. How did that happen? I'm sure Colonel Marty probably didn't overreact at all. He probably was like totally fine with it. He was like, oh, it's just a coincidence, right? That my captain and my wife apparently wear the same perfume. Nothing suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. So unfortunately, we don't really know what happened. All we know is that the captain was then sent on a special mission to some undisclosed location, and his wife all of a sudden fell ill and had to go back to Mexico to be with family. What we do know is that these two people were never seen again. A lot of the people during this time period were even suspicious of this, and rumors started, but because it was the colonel, no one really said or did anything. So the story was just kind of left at that. That's suspicious. People were starting rumors, but nothing really, you know, came of it at all. But people did start saying that they would frequently smell perfume. And around the same time period, people who knew Dolores before she went back to Mexico said that they would smell her perfume specifically. It wasn't until 5 decades later, in 1833, the fort was under American control at this point, and some officers were going around, and one of them tapped on a wall and realized that the wall sounded hollow. So they decided, oh, well, let's excavate this. There were rumors that there had been hidden tunnels and hidden chambers built into this fort at the beginning of it to hide prisoners and basically as torture rooms as well, were the rumors. But nothing had ever officially really been found up until this point. As they're opening it up, they're taking, you know, bricks out one by one. And as they're taking bricks out, this strong, overpowering smell of perfume starts coming out. A very distinct perfume smell. But how is that possible when this has been sealed up for who knows how long? As the entire wall is taken down, they realize it opens up into a room that has 2 basically chains hanging from the walls, like holdings for people. And on these 2 chains, there are 2 bodies. Skeletons at this point, obviously. But ever since the wall has been opened up, people claim to see a woman apparition walking around that general area a lot. And of course, it is accompanied with a nice florally perfume to, you know, make its presence more known. Most people believe it is Dolores and her secret lover. And honestly, this is one of my more favorite ghost stories I've ever read because it just, like, it's tragic. I know it's very tragic, but like it just sounds like a telenovela. Man finds out wife cheating on with younger subordinate man and decides to chain them into a room. Just sounds like something that would happen in a TV show. Dolores isn't the only ghost that is reportedly sighted. There are numerous sightings of apparently Spanish soldiers, of Native Americans, of British soldiers, American soldiers. A lot of these apparitions are frequently seen doing the same things. Like Dolores is almost always seen pacing at one spot, and the perfume is almost always the same. There's a Spanish soldier that they see out in a field a lot looking for a ring, which is reportedly how he died. He was out in a field looking for a ring and got shot by a cannon. Doesn't sound ideal, but they say they frequently see his ghost on the ground looking for the ring still. Another thing is that a lot of people claim to see flashes and hear bangs, like the sound of gunfire or gunfire going off and cannon blast and stuff like that, like phantom war noises basically. It's like reverberates through the fort, so people claim to hear that all the time still as well. For most people, it'd be very safe to say that this place is haunted. I'm again not so sure. I do think it's interesting. I love the story about Dolores because she was, you know, a sassy over perfumed lady who got caught cheating by her husband, and I think it's really interesting, and I had a lot of fun looking into it. It's fun to find haunted places in the state that you live in. So down in the comments, let me know what you guys thought of the story. Also, let me know what your favorite paranormal ghost story from your local area is down in the comments so we can all read them and enjoy these. And hopefully this goes over pretty well, and I will see you guys in the next spooky story video next month on the 13th. And I'm excited to, I don't know what I'm gonna do for that one yet. I'm excited to start researching though. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, definitely make sure to hit that like button down below. Also make sure to hit the subscribe button if you wanna see more from me. And remember guys, there are always spooks to be found. Bye!